Hello, my name is Fred Hadley, and I publish the Village Century, an email newsletter to Century Village residents in Boca Raton, Florida. And we're doing a Zoom interview today with Senator Joseph Abruzzo, who you can see on the left side of your screen. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning, Fred. It's such a pleasure to be with the Village Century once again.
Okay. Now, just because of legalities, just want you to acknowledge the fact that we are recording this interview for later use over social media. Is that all right? Do we have permission?
You have full permission and full authorization for whatever you want to use the video for.
All right. You know, Florida is an all consent state, so we just want to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yes.
I know you have a lot of lawyer friends, so.
That I do.
So we want to start off. It's now August. What's today? The 20th. Yeah. Yeah. 2 days after the primary. The primary. Well, 3 days. I think it's the 21st. Let me look at my calendar here. Oh no, it's still the 20th. All right. You lose track of the time with the COVID crisis. You notice that? All right. So we had a primary on Tuesday, and I want to start off the interview by getting you're a very seasoned politician. Let me see. I have a summary of your electoral history. From 2008 to 2012, you served in the Florida House of Representatives, and then you went upstairs to the Florida Senate from 2012 to 2016, and then something a little unusual happened in 2016, and by that I mean you decided to go downstairs, if I may use that expression, down back to your the House of Representatives, where you served a full term from 2016.
And Fred, if I may interrupt, it was unusual, and hopefully we could get to it later in the interview, but the Supreme Court threw out the map in the Senate district that I served. Sure.
Yeah. Well, we're not getting into the reason, but it is a fact. You did something unusual that most people, when you get to the Senate, they don't want to go back to being a state rep.
Sure.
Right, and you finished that term, and then you went to work for, I think, Berman Law. It's a personal injury law firm. And
Correct.
Right now, you have decided to get back into politics after saying that you probably wouldn't, but never say never in politics. And of course, we always encourage you to get back in the game. And tell us, let's start off by saying, just briefly, what your intention is this November. You have an election, do you not?
I do, and I appreciate the rundown. And yes, it's been a smorgasbord, if you will, of ever-changing landscape in Palm Beach County and in politics in general, which public service in general, which tends to happen. And when I was in the Senate and the Supreme Court throughout the map and the district I've represented, just to let you know, in our beloved residents of Century Village, there's one community area that is not in the current Senate district west of the Turnpike, which is the community I live in. Because I was drawn into a district at the time with Senator Clemens and Senator Sachs. We avoided a three-way, 3 senators running, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go back to Tallahassee in the House seat, and now I am running for clerk and comptroller of Palm Beach County. The reason, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, finish.
The primary reason that I did not run for re-election back to the Florida legislature was my son. I never sugarcoated that. I'm the primary supporter of him, and he's a little bit bigger now. He's 5.5.
And maybe towards the end of the interview, we'll ask you to bring him in for a cameo.
Oh, sure. Yeah, he's right here. So I get to be a caretaker for my son, and to say, 4.5 months out of the year minimum, I would be gone. That wasn't going to be ideal for me. I love Tallahassee. I loved serving our community in Tallahassee. I think we fulfilled our promises that we ran on. And when I say we, I mean the office, that all the great support that I had with my staff. So it was a difficult decision from a job perspective, but not from a personal perspective.
Sure.
I've always had my eye on clerk and comptroller. This is not a term limited position. So, Sharon Bach, this is her office, and there was no telling when she was going to leave. Fortunately, I do not have to travel for this position. I get to represent our community here at home in Palm Beach County, and I cannot wait to hopefully get to work come January and really dig in. And I know we'll get into different nuances of that later on in the interview, but this allows me to be in home. And yes, I may be giving up some financial means by leaving the private sector, but I love public service. That's how I started here in Palm Beach County, and God willing, if the residents keep having me, would like to continue my service for some time.
All right. Well, but what is exactly your status now? You were not on the August 18th ballot. That's because you had no Democratic challenge. This is a partisan position?
It is, and I have a write-in candidate filed against me. So what that means is I did not have a primary, but I do have to have an election in August. So you will see. I'm sorry?
November.
I'm sorry, November.
Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
Yes, I will have a general election in November, and we feel obviously very.
Can you tell me your name?
I'm sorry, Fred. So I have a write-in candidate that my opponent's name technically does not appear on the ballot.
Oh.
But nonetheless, I do not take it lightly. You will see, I will be at every type of forum throughout the county that I'm invited to. I will be seeking out the support from the community. You will see the signs. You may even see some communications, election communications, regardless of a write-in or not. I don't like taking things lightly or anything for granted. So we're just going to run a campaign like we always have, and obviously there's a larger election at stake right now, and I understand that more than any, just as much as anybody. And I'm just excited to be on the ballot and excited to be running. But I did not win automatically, and we will have to get the voters' approval come November.
All right. Now, for the sake of the people watching this, I know you know all the nuances. In Florida, we have a thing called closed primary, an open primary, and there has been a fair amount of media coverage that sometimes people, what they do call mischief making, they get just any individual to be a write-in candidate in November just for the purpose of closing the primary. Can you comment, not on necessarily your race, but just in general, what's the history on that open versus closed ballot in Florida, and why do we have that rule? Take it away.
Sure. I look at it in two respects. In one respect, when you're able to file as a write-in, you don't have to pay the large qualifying fees or work to get the ballot. So it allows anybody to run for office, and without those who may not have the means or the time to put forth. So I think that is actually a very good thing. And secondly, to use it to close out a primary, so one of the parties can't vote in it. I agree with our state attorney Dave Ehrenberg. That's a little mischief making, as you said. From what I can tell from the person I'm running against, that this is somebody that files a lot against people. So I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her yet, and hopefully there'll be a form or two. But that aside, I'm glad that people are allowed to be involved in the process. Again, they may not have the means to do it, and I think that is a good thing.
Okay, very good. Now, I want to focus on the current election cycle, specifically the primary that we had the other day. I want to start off by showing you a photo, and perhaps you can identify this for our viewers from left to right. Can you identify all the people in the photo?
You're a very, I feel like I'm on, a cable news show right now, Fred. That would be Emily Slosberg, the Representative Emily Slosberg, who I believe at the time or around that time was one of my aides in the Senate, and former Representative Irv Slosberg.
And of course, he's the one with the letter of serve hat, right?
Yes, but not in his traditional orange color.
Yeah.
So
What's
that
the,
must be a special edition.
yeah, what's the location of this photograph? And do you remember what the occasion was?
Emily was announcing she was
Photograph,
running
by
for
the
the
way.
state.
I think you invited me. So would you fill us in? What happened? This was back in March of 2016. What's going on here?
Well, Fred, that would be Emily announcing that she's running for the state house, and
Okay.
that was at Representative Slosberg's home.
Okay. And why were you there?
I was there to kick off Emily running for the Florida House.
All right. So you were trying to help Emily get elected, in other words, by lending the prestige of your position in office to her. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Now, I want to just show you one other picture, if I may. 2 years after that, Irv Schlossberg showed up at the Ed Saul's, that's the United South County Democratic Barbecue, wearing a Rock is My Religion t-shirt. I don't know if you remember, but he was at that meeting, and he was going around telling everybody that he was going to challenge you for the position that you were holding, which was state senate. Do you remember that barbecue? And can you tell us what your reaction was, given the fact that just a few months earlier, you were in his home? That was his home, right? When that picture was taken, I'll show it to you again just to refresh your memory.
Yeah, well, Fred, let me just get to the chase, because I see where you're headed, and I rather just cut straight to it. I don't have to see the pictures. I understand.
Yeah, all right, okay.
You know, at that time, the Senate seat I was representing got completely thrown out. And as I mentioned, I got drawn out of the district. So there's a Western seat that I technically do not live in. And at that time, from my strong recollection, Representative Irv Schlossberg was looking at either running against Senator Clemens, and then out of nowhere, possibly the Western seat, which I was trying to figure out how to run for. I did have some severe complications with my residence. I would not break the law, and did I have enough time, the home that I live in now, to be able to unload it and get into the district, because we passed a strict law in Tallahassee. Back in the day, you could kind of rent a place. It wasn't a big deal and all these things, which I've never did, but ever did. I've always lived in the district that I represented, always. But now it became, I believe, a felony. So I was never gonna play that game, and we had such a short window that I didn't know if I could, but that was my initial intent, to try to figure out possibly a way. Didn't know if I would get there. So Representative Schlossberg was trying to figure out, Irv Schlossberg, where he was going to run. He was set on running. He will tell you to this day, he never did file against me. He never did run against me. A couple weeks after I made the determination, my decision had nothing to do with him. Zero, none. It really was about my residency, and also avoiding. I did not, Senator Sachs and Clemens and myself, we were not going to run against each other. We made that clear. So when I made that determination a week or so later, he and Kevin Rader, who is our current senator, decided to run for that Western seat. Irv filed against him. He filed against Kevin, Senator Rader, and then pulled out of that race to run against Senator Clemens. So, let me take one step back in my relationship with Representative Schlossberg. I've known him since I was a student in Lynn University. I've helped out, I believe, Irv Schlossberg and the Dory Schlossberg Foundation, I believe, quite a bit in the initiatives that he supported when I was in the legislature, as far as bills and probably, I would say, and many people may not know this, when the seatbelt law passed, the Senate at the time, I was in the House, I was a freshman in the House, was not fond of Representative Schlossberg. So they waited until he was gone from the legislature to move the seatbelt bill forward. And when it came up on the House floor for a vote, the Republican leadership at the time came back to the chamber, because the Democrats, we sit in the back, to inform us and the leader, Franklin Sands, that they would be pulling off Dory's name off the bill. So Leader Sands let me know that, knowing that I'm Palm Beach County, we had a meeting in the bubble of which is the room in the back, that we could have a discussion of the delegation, or most of the delegation, about we have to fight to keep Dory's name on that bill. And I went back up because I had some good relationships in the front of the chamber, if you will, and I worked it out with them to just leave this alone. Do not pull Dory's name off. And Irv was sitting in the gallery. And I'll make a very long story short. Myself and some other members of the delegation, we saved Dory's name from being stripped off that bill. They were about to drop that amendment. So, you know, I've been extremely supportive of the seatbelt laws and the Slosberg family. So to cut right to the chase, yes, it was somewhat of a surprise to even hear he was considering that. What he may not have known at the time, I had a big time residency issue with the new map that was put in place. And we were literally weeks away from qualifying.
Okay. A few days after Irv announced at that South County Democrat barbecue that he was, the words he actually used, you may not realize it, but he did say that I'm challenging Senator Abruzzo. I never actually was in the race with you, but that was how he stated it. And he tried to, like, in his own way, strong arm me and say that I should support him. And I said, but I like Senator Abruzzo. And he said, oh no. Were you somewhat disappointed that he was so negative on you, given that you were at his daughter's kickoff party and that I think you had made a speech a few months earlier up in Tallahassee saying what a great job Irv was doing for road safety? Did you feel any personal sense of disappointment from Irv Slosberg at that time?
Of course, absolutely. It was, you know, I understand that politics is a tough game, but, you know, when things like that happen, it says a lot. And I will tell you that to this day, if I ever run across Irv, whether it's in a store or at the gym or wherever it may be, he cannot, you know, the apologies continue to flow. I've said to him many times, there's no need, you know, water under the bridge. That race was never going to happen anyway in my mind. And all I can say is, you know, when I look at the decisions that were made, including this current election, you know, I have no grudges, and Irv had to answer to the public for many things, and that's fine. But Emily, you know, she's a very good person, and you know, I'm sorry to read and hear about some things that are going on personally. I wish her the very best. I think, like I said, she's a good person. She's a hard worker. You know, she got through law school in a big way while a lot was going on in her life. Her mother was sick. She really is a good person. And I'm, you know, I can't say enough about, again, my entire staff as a whole in the Senate, and including Emily. We did the Yellow Dot program, which I absolutely saved lives. You know, Irv Slosberg got the guardrails up. A lot of good, and I measure a lot of the success we had on the things we did that saved lives. And you cannot dispute the fact that both Slosbergs have had their mark in saving lives. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. Now, as long as you're mentioning Emily, there was an interview before the primary in the Palm Beach Post. I believe it was the reporter Washington, Walter Washington, I forgot his first name, but Washington interviewed her. It was like a 3-page interview, around 3 pages in the Sunday Palm Beach Post. In that interview, the reporter asked Slosberg, Irving, whether or not having Emily stand up at all of these public meetings and forums and 95 Alive, and constantly retelling the story of the horrible accident that occurred, I think, about 23, 24 years ago when she and her twin sister were just 14. That perhaps he was injuring her, that making her constantly relive the details. I mean, I've been to any number of these meetings and having to hear about, bones sticking out of her leg, and it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
Fred, all due respect, and I like that I like that you take your people you interview to task. These are very important questions. I'm not a psychologist. I can't get into mental states. Obviously, the family's dealt with unbearable grief that I can't even imagine. Actually, hey, come here real quick. Just because I'm doing an interview. Come here real quick, buddy. Well, you asked for him. Here's the little guy.
See him. Hey, Joe too.
Well, he's not that little anymore. He just turned, how old are you now?
5.5.
5.5. So
Wow.
I'm just gonna be a little bit longer, okay?
You'll be voting in
All right.
13 years. Think about it.
All right. So I can't imagine what they went through. So I don't want to comment on their personal states of mind or things like that.
Sure.
I wish the best for the things that I read and learned about over the course of this past election cycle and
I want to show you another picture. I think of course, there's Irv with his proverbial letter of serve hat. And you know who the other person is for those of us that don't live in the village?
I'm sorry, my son was talking to me, Fred. Could you say it again?
That's all right. Can you identify the gentleman in the red pullover?
That would be always President Mike Lemongelli.
Right, always president. All right, well, he is the president of the CVW Democratic Club. And the significance of this picture is days after he announced that he was going to be running for the seat that you were holding, which was Senate, he came to Century Village. I just happened to get lucky, was standing in the lobby, so I was able to get this picture. Well, the purpose of this visit was that he was trying to marshal support for his candidacy, and he went to Mike Lemongelli. And I think by that point, you had already switched contest with then Representative Kevin Rader. And I believe what Michael told him was flat out, no, we're going to support State Representative Kevin Rader to replace Joe Abruzzo. So the next thing that happened, of course, is that the senator, former Representative Slosberg went and decided to run against Senator Clemens. I'm not sure, District 90, I'm not sure of the number. But anyway, we all can see what the result was. I hope this reads backwards. I don't know, it looks back.
Yeah, I got it, yes.
Reading properly? Well, anyway,
Yes.
Three-way race with Senator Clemens, and Irv got like 32% of the vote after spending something like $2 million of his own money, which he has every right to do. Now, just to bring it up to the current race, he just ran against State Representative Tina Polsky, who decided that she was going to be, try to be a state senator, and the results were just slightly better. That he got about 33%, but not even a third, just under a third of the vote. He has now given an interview with the Palm Beach Post saying he'll never do another campaign again. Do you think we can trust him at his word? And do you think that's a good decision for him? What advice would you give?
I would never tell anybody that they shouldn't or couldn't run for public office. Anybody from either party or any walk of life. If that's the decision he makes, I think that would be a good decision for his pocketbook. But and obviously the will of the voters have been he's put himself before the will of the voters in many different areas now of the county. But I will never say that he shouldn't or couldn't. Do I think he will? In politics, nothing would surprise me. In running for office, in elections, nothing would surprise me. So do I think he will? No. Would it surprise me if he did? No.
I'm with you 100%. Now, he's already made his peace with Senate-elect Tina Polsky. Well, actually, she's not Senate-elect yet. She's got a race in September, but she's the Democratic.
Strong presumptive, yes.
Yeah, strong presumptive, right. And that they're supposedly over the phone, they made up, and he said that he wants to work with her, and so on and so forth. What can you tell us about Tina, and especially this was one of the nastiest races with all the mailers, they each calling each other Republican. Of course, we know Irv was a Republican. He admits it too much. He said that he saw the light 23 years ago. What can you say about the mailer campaign that we were inundated with? Is this unusual for the county? And
no. First of all, I can't say enough about soon-to-be Senator Polsky. When I decided not to rerun for the House seat, Tina replaced myself, and I was a strong supporter of hers, and along with Senator Rader, and this is who we felt the future of the district leadership, that she was the right person, handled herself great in the House this past term, and now on her way to be the senator. So I'm extremely excited. I mean, I don't even want to say really big future, because really big present. She is a really big present right now, in representing the county, and a big challenge ahead of her, because it's unbelievable to me, but they're going into redistricting again. So all the seats that everybody's running on legislatively, they're going to be completely different. And if I could pivot just really quick, and I'll come back to your question, when the map was thrown out last time and we went through redistricting last time. Yeah, buddy. I need a minute. Just give me some time. So when the map was thrown out last time, we had a Democratic majority Supreme Court. So now conventional wisdom will tell you, under a DeSantis Supreme Court, that whatever map the Republicans put forth, they're probably going to rubber stamp it. So the districts we see now will look nothing alike. I would not be surprised if we go back down to 14, 13, maybe even 12 senators in the super minority and under 40 House members on the House side. So the Democrats most likely will be in the super minority come next site. Did I lose you? Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. You're back.
Yeah. So soon to be Senator Polsky has a great challenge ahead of her, and all the delegation of the Democrats at that matter, both our county and statewide. It's going to be a difficult year and a half, to say the least. So I look forward to her leadership. I think she's going to, just like she was a House member, she's going to be an excellent senator. We have some excellent veteran senators that she'll be working with, notably Janet Cruz and Lori Berman. I think they're going to be a heck of a team on the floor in the Senate. Of course, the Senate is where a lot of the bad bills, as we say as Democrats, get stopped, and I think they're going to just do a heck of a job. I'm excited to see them in action. And I have floor privileges for life. I'm actually going to go be a spectator and see them in action, the entire Democratic caucus.
Do you have any comment on the huge amount of money that are being spent? Now, these Tallahassee positions, Senate and state rep, are statutorily salaried, I think, at $29,697 per year.
Yeah.
What does it tell you about a person, and of course I'm referencing Irv Slosberg, that would spend literally $9 million to be elected to a position that only pays $29,000? Obviously, he's not doing it to get rich. But do you think there's something wrong with our system? I mean, the airwaves were just totally dominated by commercials by Slosberg. And of course, I'm also thinking about another Berg, Bloomberg, who tried to buy the president presidential nomination by spending more money, I think.
Yeah,
Do you
this
think
is
that
a
some kind of
strong.
reform is necessary so that people that aren't of means like that would stand a chance? What can you tell us about?
Well, this would be a strong warning I would like to put forth to anybody that's running in a Democratic primary and spending gajillions of their own money. I've seen this happen, and quite frankly, I've watched friends do it. So you have the Bloomberg example at the presidential level. You have the Jeff Green example at the statewide level. And of course, and probably nowhere like this in the entire country, did somebody spend just under $10 million of their own money and run 3 times. Democratic primary voters.
And lost 3 times.
And a lawsuit. Democratic primary voters do not like people trying to buy elections. It never, ever works in current times. So on one hand, the proof is in the pudding, and it does not work. And when I say that, these gentlemen that we alluded to vastly outspent their opponents and were dominating the airways, and they lost by such wide margins. I mean, all the ones we listed, ridiculous margins, wasn't even close in any of the races. So I am so proud of being a Democrat and our Democratic super voters, because these, you're talking about the most, you would think money would buy it, and it does not. And they look at the candidate, they dig down into the issues, they dig down to what is being conveyed to them, and they make an informed decision. And money does not win Democratic primaries. I can't speak to general elections, and I can't speak to Republican primaries, but Democratic primaries, you try to buy it, it does not work.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about the other major race that we had, and that was between former state representative Kelly Skidmore and
Sure.
newcomer attorney Michael Weinstein. Did you follow that race at all? Kelly, of course, you served with her, right?
I did, and I believe I was the first one to endorse Kelly. You know, she was in leadership when I came in as a freshman, and she is one of the most astute, diving into the weeds of bills and understanding the process. And when I heard she was running, I just got so excited, because it is so important to have representatives and legislators like that really dig deep in the bills, because they really help the caucus as a whole. I was Democratic whip of both the Senate and the House. So leadership teams, I understand how they work. And Kelly's somebody that her knowledge of the way that the process works and how bills are written will positively infect the rest of the caucus, where decisions might be made in the better with her there. So I knew right away that was the right candidate, right person for the job. Came out right away. I'm so happy she pulled through. She had, a very difficult race. Her opponent put in, as we were talking, a lot of his own money. She did not have that ability. And again, she was, the person that didn't have the majority of the money or personal money prevail.
Okay. I also am very impressed with Kelly Skidmore. I've seen her at the Democratic clubs, and I actually asked her to moderate a candidate debate that I produced 2 years ago between Polsky and Mindy Koch. And she was very helpful, and that's one of the reasons why we endorsed her, but it was primarily because we have great confidence in Kelly Skidmore's. She represented Century Village, by the way, for 2 terms. So, and I think this whole business about she doesn't live in the district, I think it was a fake issue. It's technically true, but there's no law against running as a non-resident. The law states that you may not serve. Do you have any comment on that?
I do, and I appreciate that. And I say this sincerely. I've always lived in the district that I've represented. However, here in Florida, you can't lock down and say, okay, you have to be living in your district for X amount of period of time prior to running or anything, because of the way we handle redistricting. Take me as a case study. I served in the Senate. They threw out the map immediately. So our simply states you have to be living in the district by election day, and then you're duly qualified. If you're going into redistricting every decade, and on top of redistricting, you have challenges that the map can be changed. If you allow one branch of government to have so much control over the other, they can, and I'm not saying anybody would, but technically they could use that as ousting people from office. Oh, I don't like that senator, that representative, we're going to draw him out of the district. That would happen all the time if they knew they could never come back. So we have to be flexible of how we handle the residency. And yes, you get elected, you better be in that district and you better stay in that district. But because of the changing landscapes and the way the whole the sausage is made, it protects those who seek office, no question.
Sure. I want to do a little under the hood question with you.
Sure.
In Palm Beach County, we have several people that are behind the scenes people, but nevertheless very influential.
This is a hard-hitting interview, Fred. Let it rip. Go ahead. As you know, I shoot straight and
yeah, sure. I know he's a good friend of yours, and I consider him a good friend too, and that would be the so-called prince of Palm Beach County, political, quote-unquote, operative, Andre Fledell. Just by way of disclosure, when I lived in New York, Andre's late father, Martin Fledell, did run the North Shore Towers Orchestra, and I videotaped him all these poolside concerts. So I have a little background, although I didn't know Andre when I was in New York. I first met him at Sherry Scarborough's West Boca Community Council. But of course, I was immediately impressed, as anybody that rightfully thinking would be by Andre. He's very knowledgeable and a terrific speaker. Andre called me up before the race, and he was pushing Michael Weinstein, and I said, well, I'd give him some consideration, and ultimately I did an interview with candidate Weinstein, which we put on Facebook. I also interviewed his opponent, Kelly Skidmore, to make it even-handed. And the other individual, if Andre is the prince, now I'm referencing the so-called consigliere of Palm Beach County. Well, this was more applicable when the late Bert Aronson was alive, as you know, and many of my viewers. He was a long-standing county commissioner for District 5, and he was considered by many to be the so-called godfather of Palm Beach County, not in any kind of criminal sense, but just that he wielded tremendous political power. And
Dave Ehrenberg, when he was a senator, I think did a proclamation on the Senate floor naming him the godfather of Palm Beach County.
Then we have, we're in good company then.
Bert Aronson, yeah.
Sure. Now, I also got a call.
And I have to say, you know, Sheila Aronson, his wife, just passed away last month, and my condolences to the entire family.
We did note that her passing in the Village Century, and we were also at Bert's funeral, and we live streamed that. I asked Liz Berger to be a sort of an ambassador for me with the family, and they granted permission, and I'm very glad we did, because he was a larger than life figure, no doubt about it.
Oh my God.
I just want to
and the Venero, yes.
Thank him posthumously for something he did for Century Village, and that was to get us back a turn lane. After they widened Lyons Road, we lost a dedicated turn lane, and now, thanks to Mike Lehman-Jelly and the late Marvin Manning, who was a political leader here, and Bert, they appropriated funds, and we now have a dedicated right turn lane, so you don't have to sit there for 2.5 minutes after midnight waiting to be rear-ended. You can go right into the village. So thanks Bert, for that.
And many other things. Yeah.
So the so-called consigliere is the very powerful condo lawyer Howard Weiss from the law firm of Weiss Handler and Cornwell, and he called me up. I don't think he would mind saying, and asked me to consider both Michael Weinstein and also Irv Slosberg. And I told him that I don't think I would be able to do the Slosberg thing, but you know, I'm a little bit surprised, because when I told Howard Weiss at that famous 2016 barbecue that Irv was going around saying that he's challenging Senator Abruzzo. And I said, I may have a difficult decision because I like both of them. He said, are you kidding me? How could you even think of not supporting Joe Abruzzo? Well, what do you think's happened in 4 years that he would actually be? Now, I know that by way of disclosure, he handled Irv's divorce, so they do have a working relationship, but do people change their political loyalty so quickly? What do you think's going on with that, if you can comment on
Well, let me take the first part of the question first, which is, of course, the Prince, Andre Fladel. And we say the Prince, and by the way, obviously the county commission bestowed the title Prince upon Andre by proclamation. He actually got taken to court because you can't give out royal titles, and I believe prevailed. And then the legislature, Dean Cannon, the Speaker of the House, signed along with Democratic leader Ron Saunders at the time, signed a House proclamation recognizing that he's the Prince of Palm Beach County. So, he is, yep, there he is at the auditorium. Larger than life character. There will never be another. I would bet, possibly my bottom dollar that there's not another person like him in the country involved in politics, and one of the brightest and astute people, whether you agree with him or not. Now, Fred, the interesting thing in this, one of the very rare occasions in South County, Andre, the Prince, and myself were on complete opposite sides of the Skidmore-Weinstein race. So although we are, we have, I can't say this enough, we're beyond close, but this was a decision he made and a decision I made. I no grudges. He does not definitely hold any grudges, and we went at it all in good. I look at it a little different because this was my former district. I know the community here intimately. I know this district so well. So it was a little bit more personal to me from a representative standpoint. I'm just happy Kelly won, but I hold no grudges against Andre. I owe him a lot in my education through the process. He is beyond knowledgeable, and a lot of us don't realize almost every Democratic organization that has started, even our umbrella HOAs like Cobra and West Boca Community Council, all have lineage links back to Andre. He organized the entire county into into one of the strongest voting blocks in the entire state. So if we have to, I always like to look back and how we got here, and Palm Beach County would definitely not be what it is today politically. Definitely wouldn't have, I believe we are one of the most beautiful counties. Actually, I think we are the most beautiful county in the country. And if you go back to the 80s and early 90s, and maybe even prior to that, a lot of that links back to Andre, any way you cut it. So he is the Prince, and all of us in a way owe him a debt of gratitude, especially if you love this county, because he has had an impact probably, I can't even think of a close 1B. So
You've seen this, right?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
I think that's up in Delray Beach, where there's actually a chair on the beach that says Prince Andre. That's sort of like a in joke.
Two things occurred that I think you might find interesting. Dean Cannon, the Speaker of the House, the one that signed the proclamation, was very serious about changing the name of Delray Beach to Fladelray Beach.
Oh yeah.
And Andre stopped it because he, of course, he is the, yes, he's vain, if you will, but he is also very realistic, and he was embarrassed by that and did not want that to occur. And then the legislature actually was on the Senate floor, was going to change Atlantic Avenue to Fladell Avenue, and he again stopped it because, oh God, all the businesses and the landmark. Sometimes the Republicans, they which control Tallahassee, they don't care about a street in Palm Beach County. It's that they're not involved in it. So, but to his credit, and he could have probably had both named after him, he put the brakes on.
Sure.
Thank God.
I certainly share your sentiments about Andre. He's an incredible person, and anytime he does any kind of public appearance, I'm always there with my iPhone to record it because he's always ahead of the curve. He's
Yeah.
very informed and very powerful speaker. Now, the other individual, we're not going to let him get off without a mention. Howard Weiss of the law firm
Sure.
Cornwall, Weiss Handler in Cornwall. I live in Cornwall, so I have to. Now, you used to be.
I did. I was going to disclose that. I
Tell us
would
about
say, God, it's been many years now, but I've worked for the firm for a period of time. You know, the institutional knowledge that Henry Handler and Howard Weiss hold, again, they probably know more about the nuances of the county than any other firm, especially in South County, zoning, how things happen. You know, they're and they care about the community. So it's yeah, Howard's been a power player for a very, very long time, well prior to me. I started getting involved in 1990. Can't believe it's been 21 years already. But Howard and Henry have had their footprint in the county, and you know, if that's what Howard did, we never discussed the race. I did discuss him with Andre, but Howard and I never really touched base on the election. If that's the decision he made, then you know, I'm sure he had his reasonings. He's a very loyal individual, so if he makes a commitment to you, generally, or from what I know of him, he for better or for worse, he's with you, and I think that's one of his longevity strengths. He doesn't just, you know, what's hot at the moment. If he sticks with somebody, and that says a lot in today's politics, because you know, most people are looking for which way the wind's blowing and they move. Howard's not that way. That's not how they operate. I think definitely the judicial branch knows that. When I see him typically supporting judges, incumbent judges and people like that, and then when new challengers come, even if it looks like the incumbent may work, he sticks with his commitment. So hats off to him for keeping his word and not wavering because of politics. So if he committed to those gentlemen, then you know, it's similar to how you said he was going to stick with me. He committed to me, but in an open race, if that's what he decided to do, knowing the character of him and not being wishy-washy, I could see that being the case.
Sure. Just to finish up the election, we have a new election supervisor of elections, Wendy Link. And she was just reelected overwhelmingly, I think 70 plus.
Sure.
So in the Democratic primary. Most people know that if.
But he keeps, I wish he came in at some of your other tough questions.
I want him because he's a lot more
I need a little bit more time. Okay?
than us, I think.
He wants to play checkers, so I have to.
Yeah, all right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but we could go. It's good. I warned him that I'm going to.
Nice to see good parenting for a change. We'll just leave it at that. So Wendy Link, very nice person, by the way. I think she's great. She is originally a Republican, and she was appointed by Ron DeSantis, governor, who's a Republican, to replace Susan Booker, who had been the supervisor of elections for, I don't know, as long as I've been down here, probably longer. And she was suspended because they weren't happy with the last election. Okay. When she was appointed, everybody said, aha, Republican governor, he's appointing a Republican, you know, they got their eye on the 2020 presidential election, and she's going to be there to be hit. Well, then she went and changed her party affiliation, which everybody, including Irv Slosberg, has a right to do. And she switched over to the Democratic Party. And there are a number of people that I heard speaking at some of the Democratic clubs that she's a wolf in sheep's clothing and that we shouldn't trust her. And that, of course, the original scenario was that she was just going to be a space filler and just be an interim supervisor and then step aside and not run again. But of course, either the job grew on her or maybe this was the plan. But anyway, she decided that she would be a candidate, which again, this is America. Anybody that wants to can run. Now, already this election is drawing some criticism. First of all, I've been told, actually it was by your good friend, Senator Kevin Rader, who is still in office until, I guess it's New Year.
November.
Well, but I mean, when does the term end? With the election? Or
for legislatures, literally on election night,
okay.
the duties changed over. The swearing is more ceremonial.
Sure, okay.
Okay.
Well, anyway, so the question is, I forgot what the question was. Bring me back where I was a moment.
You were talking about Wendy Link.
Oh, yeah, right. So, oh, I know what it was. Kevin made the comment to me that Palm Beach County was very late in getting even the early voting up, which the early voting ended Sunday night. So they had all day Monday to get that in order. So in the past, I was used to going to channel 20, and at 7:01, Susan Booker used to get early voting results up there. But we lagged at least 30 minutes behind all the other counters.
Sure.
And then there were still 12 precincts that were not reporting, allegedly, and this is in today's paper, because the thick walls of the high schools prevented, I guess they're using an iPad or something to send in election returns. It's supposed to be very secure and encrypted, but they couldn't get the results out. As a result, we didn't really get, it's still not official, but we didn't get a final count until at least 24 hours after the election. What can you tell us about that? Do you think that?
Well, let me first speak to the character of Wendy Link. I met Wendy in 2008. We were working very hard to get funding for the Western campus of Palm Beach Community College back then, State College now. I was actually surprised to learn that she was a Republican because she was just such an enormous supporter of public education and was fighting so hard for our community colleges. I mean, it was unbelievable. And we did get the money in the budget in 09, 10, 11, every year. And I carried that. And the governors, both Chris and Scott, were vetoing them. And then Senator Scott, then Governor Scott came around and we were able to have that survive veto. And that would not have happened without Wendy. So when she got appointed, I was like, wait, what? Wendy's a Republican? I was shocked. So I'm glad she came back to at least her position roots that I saw and is a Democrat. And obviously the Democratic voters overwhelmingly supported her. And I'm happy to see that, because I think when people change parties like Governor Chris did, you have to look at the body of what their positions were. And she was more in line being Democrat, at least the things that I saw. Now, on the election night, I will just say this. I think since 2000, which by the way was the first election I ever voted in. I moved down here in 1999. I was 19 years old. The first election being of legal age I was able to vote on was the hanging
Chicago,
chad.
right? You're from
I'm
Chicago?
sorry?
You're a Chicago.
Yeah, originally from Chicago as a kid. My entire I'm sorry, there when I was 18. My entire adult life has been here in Florida, and the first election I was able to vote in was that Chad ballot over at the Elk Lodge in Boca Raton. Remember, like yesterday, you're so excited.
Not everybody's familiar with hanging chads. Can you just briefly tell?
Fred, I beg to differ. I think anybody in Century Village is well aware of the hanging chad. It literally changed the course of our entire world. It's not a radical statement because of the election here in Palm Beach County. And I think many of us have PTSD from that night with elections, at least. And it was just unorthodox. But obviously that settled the Bush-Gore election, and Iraq and WMDs and everything happened based on, unfortunately, can be traced back to Palm Beach County. Sure. And by the way, the ones, though, this is noteworthy because they were brought up. Andre Fladell with his lawyer Howard Weiss were the ones that filed the butterfly ballot lawsuit to try to correct the presidential election. So hats off to them.
I talked about that, and I
yeah,
know He's got a chapter in there. Now,
So my point is, I believe we've been through 5 supervisors.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years, and every election cycle, there's always a hiccup. I cannot believe we cannot get this right. I do not pass that judgment on Wendy's character or ability, but it is very disappointing, especially people that on the ballot. I watched in Wellington years back, and a lot of ethics things happened. That we picked the wrong winners. The mayor was announced the wrong. The council person, it was flip flop. So we need. I don't know what I don't know what the answer is, other than new people come in, they keep trying. I think because of our history and the things happen, similar to Susan, when the Wellington issue happened, I gave her the benefit of the doubt big time. You got to give people a chance. If it keeps happening, then there needs to be a change. But you got to give people a chance, considering that we've never gotten this right.
Sure.
And I believe, and obviously the voters believe, the Democratic voters believe, Wendy is the person to get our election in the long run, our election process flawless. I think after 20 years and being the most, there's movies written or produced. HBO did a movie based on what happened here in Palm Beach County, swing vote. I think if that's the case, that we are the embarrassment of the nation for 20 years, now we should be the best. We need to figure out a way to turn us into the model where, you know what, you got to be like Palm Beach County. And I'm hoping we can get there over the years.